Susie likes to stay sort of in the back, let me tell you.
Since Susie Wiles' appointment as the first female White House chief of staff ever, Donald Trump has continued to assemble the most diverse team of any president-elect in modern history.
Susie likes to stay in the background. She's not in the background.
The chief of staff needs to be somebody who has the total and complete confidence of the commander-in-chief, and she obviously does.
Indeed, it turns out that, without even realizing it, Mr. Trump is really quite the progressive. Among others, by my count, he's picked 3 Hindus, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel and Vivek Ramaswamy, a pair of Hispanics, Marco Rubio and Lori Chavez-deremer, and the highest-ranking openly gay man ever to hold office in the official order of presidential succession, Scott Bessent.
We do not have a tax collection problem. We have a spending problem.
Now, by diversity, what I really mean is that of the most valuable sort, of ideology and belief, not what Mr. Biden came to office selling.
We need to make the issue of racial equity not just an issue for any one department of government. It has to be the business of the whole of government.
If you're an optimist, you'll see in this diversity the convening of a broad church that reflects the dynamic pluralism of America. If you're a pessimist, you might worry that it will turn out to have all the efficiency and cohesion of a first-grade field trip.
4 more years of layering on this amount of debt, and then we end up in a permanent-style European malaise.
Consider a Treasury Secretary of impeccable Wall Street credentials, alongside a Vice President who said this to the party faithful at its convention in July.
We're done, ladies and gentlemen, catering to Wall Street. We'll commit to the working man.
Consider a billionaire entrepreneur tasked with bringing his government efficiency, alongside a Labour Secretary who wants to abolish right-to-work laws.
Mr. Musk, how do you convince people who don't want to cut spending?
Consider a Director of National Intelligence whose statements on the major global crises of our times suggest a willingness to believe everything America's adversaries say.
Russian-controlled media called her a Russian asset.
Alongside a Secretary of State who's a passionate advocate for American power, and who has labelled Vladimir Putin a gangster and a thug.
And I'm excited about him work with President Trump to bring some balance back to the world.
A Secretary of Health and Human Services who is the nation's leading critic of vaccines, alongside a team of senior health officials that includes the choice for Commissioner of the Food and Drugs Administration, who describes himself as pro-vaccine.
All my kids are vaccinated, and I hope he's not going to move against one of the most life-saving technologies in the history of the world.
Now, some of the most successful presidencies have involved teams that encompassed a range of ideological views. But this one is different. On the major issues of economics, national security and social policy that will confront the new team, the range of previously expressed positions is positively chasmic. Mr. Bessent is a passionate and articulate advocate of what some call neoliberal economics, the regnant conservative philosophy for the last few decades.
Donald Trump has a solution, and it's reciprocal tariffs. You, the great Art Laffer, was the one who told me Donald Trump is a free trader at the end of the day, and it's a strategy, escalate to de-escalate.
Will this square with the views of J.D. Vance and the rising economic populist tendency among Republicans?
We're going to stamp more and more products with that beautiful label, made in the USA.
How will Miss Gabbard, the choice for DNI, who echoes Vladimir Putin's wild claims about U.S. bioweapons labs in Ukraine, for example, fare with Mr. Rubio at the State Department?
I've never met Vladimir Putin, but I know enough about him to know he's a gangster.
And then we have the pro-choice Democrat turned independent turned Trump cheerleader Robert F. Kennedy Jr. lined up on the same side of the field as the pro-life Republican Party.
I think it's great news. We need disruption across the entire federal government. He'll be great at HHS to do that.
There are 2 possible meanings in this rich diversity. One is that it is confirmation of the ideological realignment of the right underway in the Trump era. A new populist Republican Party is being born, while still half attached by the umbilical cord of traditional conservatism to its former self.
I could see in the next few years that we are going to have some kind of a grand global economic reordering. It was something on the equivalent of a new Bretton Woods, or if you want to go back, something back to the Steel Agreements or the Treaty of Versailles.
Another explanation is more cynical, that what we have isn't a team of rivals or even a confusion of discordant voices, but simply a colourfully diverse court of characters, united only in their roles as obliging executors of Mr. Trump's every wish. Either way, we're in for a fascinating 4 years.